Wanrong, the last empress of the Qing dynasty, led a life marked by profound tragedy and sorrow. Born into a noble family in 1906, she was destined for greatness from a young age. However, her path was forever altered by the political turmoil and upheaval of early 20th century China. In 1922, at just 16 years old, Wanrong became the empress consort of the last emperor of China, Pu Yi, a child monarch with no real power. The fall of the Qing dynasty in 1911 had left China fractured, and Wanrong's life would unfold against the backdrop of revolution, political intrigue, and immense personal suffering. Her life within the Forbidden City was not one of luxury and peace, as one might expect for a royal figure. Rather, it was fraught with isolation, betrayal, and heartbreak. Despite her position, Wanrong was a prisoner in her own palace, with little control over her fate. As her husband Pu Yi struggled with his own identity and role in a rapidly changing China, Wanrong's mental health deteriorated, exacerbated by her loneliness and the cruelty she faced. Wanrong, born Gabulo Wanrong on November 13, 1906, in Beijing, was the daughter of Rong Yuan, a high-ranking official in the Qing imperial court, and Izanjoro Hengxin, a princess of the imperial clan. Her mother tragically passed away shortly after giving birth to her, leaving her to be raised by her stepmother, Izanjoro Hengxiang. Wanrong had two brothers, Runliang, her full older brother, and Runqi, her younger half-brother. Unlike many of his contemporaries, Rong Yuan believed in gender equality in education and arranged for Wanrong to receive the same education as her brothers. She attended an American missionary school in Tianjin, where she learned English and developed a keen interest in Western culture. Her education and exposure to Western ideas would later influence her life and personality. In 1922, at the age of 16, Wanrong was selected to become the empress consort of Puyi, the last emperor of China. This decision was made by the four dowager consorts and Prince Chun, Puyi's father, who believed that Wanrong's background and education made her a suitable match for the emperor. Despite her youth and the arranged nature of the marriage, Wanrong embraced her new role with grace and dignity. Her early life was marked by a blend of traditional Manchu values and exposure to Western influences, shaping her into a complex and multifaceted individual. Her upbringing, education, and eventual marriage to Puyi set the stage for a life that would be both privileged and tragic, reflecting the tumultuous changes in China during the early 20th century. In December 1922, at the age of 16, Wanrong entered into a marriage that would profoundly shape her destiny. The Qing dynasty had been overthrown a decade earlier, and China was transitioning into the Republic era. Despite the political upheavals, the former imperial family retained certain privileges, including the opportunity to uphold traditional customs. This context set the stage for Wanrong's grand wedding to Puyi, the last emperor of China. The selection process for Puyi's bride was unconventional. Presented with photographs of potential candidates, Puyi found it difficult to make a choice, remarking that the images were too similar. Initially, he favored Wenxiu, a 12-year-old girl. However, this choice faced opposition from consort Jean, who questioned Wenxiu's suitability based on her status and appearance. Consequently, the court suggested Wanrong as an alternative, appreciating her comparable age and noble lineage. To honor Manchu traditions, it was decided that Puyi would marry both Wanrong and Wenxiu, designating Wanrong as the primary consort. Preparations for the wedding were elaborate. Wanrong relocated to Beijing, where palace eunuchs and attendants instructed her in the rituals and etiquettes befitting an empress. Despite her initial reluctance and dissatisfaction with the arrangements, Wanrong eventually acquiesced. The wedding procession was a spectacle, with Wanrong being transported through Beijing in a phoenix sedan chair, attracting the attention of thousands. The ceremony adhered to traditional customs, including rituals where the bride stepped over symbolic items like fire, a saddle, and an apple. However, the marital union was fraught with challenges from the outset. On their wedding night, Puyi fled the chamber, avoiding consummation. Their relationship was strained, marked by Puyi's detachment and Wanrong's growing sense of isolation. Despite her esteemed position, Wanrong faced neglect, leading her to seek solace in opium, a habit that intensified over time. Her addiction and the emotional distance between her and Puyi contributed to her declining mental health. The dynamics within the imperial household further complicated matters. Wanrong perceived Wenxiu as a rival, possibly due to Puyi's apparent preference for her. This rivalry led to expressions of jealousy and tension among the consorts. Wanrong's emotional turmoil was evident in her writings, where she referred to Puyi as Henry dear little wife, and herself as loving husband, Elizabeth, highlighting the unconventional nature of their relationship. Despite the opulence surrounding her, Wanrong's life was marked by profound loneliness and dissatisfaction. Her marriage, intended to solidify her status, instead became a source of personal anguish, reflecting the complexities and challenges of royal unions during a period of national transformation. Empress Wanrong's life within the Forbidden City was a complex tapestry of opulence, isolation, and personal turmoil. Upon her marriage to Puyi in 1922, she entered the imperial palace, a place that had long been a symbol of China's imperial grandeur. However, the palace was no longer the vibrant center of power it once was. It had become a gilded cage for its last inhabitants. As Empress consort, Wanrong was surrounded by a retinue of eunuchs and maids who attended to her every need. She had her own separate kitchen and a personal tailor who crafted new dresses for her almost daily. Bathing rituals were elaborate affairs, with elderly maids undressing and cleansing her, after which she would often sit by the basin, admiring her reflection. Despite her volatile character and occasional bursts of temper, she was generally kind to her servants, offering them food as she often dined alone. Her brother, Runke, recalled that she once admonished him for being disrespectful to a servant. However, she was not afraid to dismiss those who upset her, expelling an unfortunate eunuch who was apparently hard of hearing for incompetence. Wanrong's personal interests reflected her Western influences. She enjoyed reading, playing the piano, and writing in English. Her love for jazz music and Western cuisine was well known, and she even taught Puyi how to eat Western food with a knife and fork. She also practiced painting and wrote poetry, some of which included English words. An article in Time magazine dated May 12, 1924, noted that both Puyi and Wanrong had adopted Western names, with Wanrong's being Elizabeth. Despite the luxury surrounding her, Wanrong's life was marked by profound loneliness. She had few visitors, except for her servants, and often felt isolated. To alleviate her solitude, she would sometimes engage in playful activities with her attendants, such as playing games or requesting them to accompany her on outings within the palace grounds. Her emotional distress was further compounded by her deteriorating relationship with Puyi, who was often absent or indifferent. In an attempt to cope with her inner turmoil, Wanrong began smoking opium, a habit that would continue to affect her throughout her life. Her time in the Forbidden City was not without moments of joy. She developed a close relationship with her English tutor, Isabel Ingram, an American missionary's daughter who had returned to China after graduating from Wellesley College. Ingram ignited Wanrong's interest in the English language and was a source of companionship during her isolation. Photographs from this period capture moments of camaraderie between the two, highlighting a rare glimpse of warmth in Wanrong's otherwise solitary existence. Empress Wanrong's life in the Forbidden City was a paradox of grandeur and desolation. Surrounded by opulence and attended to by servants, she grappled with profound loneliness and emotional distress. Her Western influences provided some solace, but they could not shield her from the isolation and, after their expulsion from the Forbidden City in November 1924, Empress Wanrong and Emperor Puyi sought refuge in Tianjin, a city that offered them a semblance of freedom and normalcy amidst their exile. The Japanese concession in Tianjin provided a unique blend of Eastern and Western influences, which significantly impacted their lifestyle during this period. Upon their arrival, the imperial couple settled into the Zhang Garden, a residence that allowed them to experience a life beyond the rigid confines of the Forbidden City. This villa became a sanctuary where they could engage in various activities that were previously inaccessible to them. The couple indulged in cultural pursuits such as attending the theater, dancing, and skating. They also embraced Western customs by enjoying horse riding, participating in sports, and shopping, activities that were both novel and liberating for them. Shopping, in particular, became a means for Wanrong to vie for Puyi's affection, especially in the presence of Wenxiu, another consort who accompanied them into exile. In 1929, the couple relocated to the quiet garden villa, Jingyuan, within the Japanese concession. This move marked a new chapter in their exile, offering them a more secluded environment. The villa provided a peaceful setting where they could continue their social activities, though the underlying tensions within their relationship persisted. During this time, Wanrong began to smoke opium recreationally, a habit that gradually developed into a serious addiction. While opium consumption was not uncommon among elites, Wanrong's increasing dependence had profound effects on her health and further strained her relationship with Puyi. Despite the luxuries and freedoms available to them, the couple's personal lives were marred by jealousy and competition, particularly involving Wenxiu. Both consorts vied for Puyi's attention, leading to a strained and competitive atmosphere within their shared exile. Wenxiu's eventual departure in 1931 left Wanrong and Puyi in a more isolated state, with their interactions becoming increasingly distant. Wanrong's diaries from this period reveal her feelings of neglect and her struggles with health issues, including neurasthenia, characterized by symptoms like headaches and fatigue. Her writings also shed light on her complex emotions regarding Puyi's relationships with his other consorts and her own sense of abandonment. The social scene in Tianjin provided Wanrong with opportunities to engage with the local community and participate in various events. She attended theater performances, danced, skated, rode horses, and indulged in shopping. These activities offered her a respite from the emotional turmoil she faced and allowed her to experience a semblance of normalcy. However, despite these engagements, a sense of isolation lingered, exacerbated by her deteriorating health and the complexities of her marital relationship. Throughout their time in Tianjin, the couple's relationship underwent significant strain. Wanrong's increasing reliance on opium, coupled with Puyi's apparent neglect, deepened the emotional chasm between them. Puyi's memoirs reflect his growing resentment towards Wanrong, especially after Wenxiu's departure, highlighting the challenges they faced in their personal lives amidst the backdrop of their political exile. Life in Tianjin represented a paradox for Empress Wanrong and Emperor Puyi. While they were granted freedoms and luxuries absent in their former imperial life, these privileges were tempered by personal struggles, health issues, and the complexities of their relationships. Tianjin offered a canvas for a life less constrained, yet the shadows of their past and the intricacies of their personal dynamics continued to influence their experiences during this tumultuous period. Empress Wanrong's tenure as the consort of Puyi, the last emperor of China, transitioned from the twilight of the Qing dynasty to the complex political landscape of Manchukuo, a puppet state under Japanese influence. Her role during this period was marked by personal struggles, political constraints, and profound transformations. In 1932, following Puyi's installation as the Emperor of Manchukuo, the couple relocated to the region, residing primarily in the capital, Tianjin, now Changchun. Their new roles were largely ceremonial, with real power residing with the Japanese authorities. The imperial palace, formerly a symbol of grandeur, became a gilded cage, limiting their autonomy and reinforcing their status as figureheads. Wanrong's public appearances were infrequent. Her most notable participation was in June 1934, when she appeared alongside Puyi during a visit by Prince Chichibu of Japan, underscoring the close ties between Japan and Manchukuo. Beyond such events, she largely remained out of the public eye, her activities confined within the palace walls. The palace environment, though luxurious, was fraught with tension. Puyi's growing devoutness to Buddhism led to strict rituals that permeated daily life, affecting both his and Wanrong's mental well-being. The Empress's personal struggles were exacerbated by isolation and neglect, leading her to seek solace in opium, a practice that intensified over time and further strained her health. Attempts to escape the confines of her situation were met with failure. Wanrong's efforts to flee were thwarted, and she faced increased confinement as a result. Her mental health declined, marked by unpredictable behavior and a noticeable deterioration in her appearance, reflecting the profound impact of her circumstances. In August 1945, as Soviet forces advanced into Manchuria, Puyi attempted to relocate the imperial household. Wanrong, along with other members of the household, was captured by Chinese Communist forces and transported to various locations before being detained in a prison camp in Yanji, Jilin province. She died in June 1946 under uncertain conditions, with her remains never conclusively identified. Posthumously, Wanrong was honored with the title Empress Qimen. In 2006, her brother, Runqi, conducted a ritual burial for her at the Western Qing tombs, providing a semblance of closure to her tumultuous life. Empress Wanrong's life, from the opulence of the Qing dynasty's final days to the hardships of exile in Manchukuo, reflects the complexities faced by individuals caught in the tides of political upheaval and personal adversity. Empress Wanrong's life, particularly during her tenure as the Empress of Manchukuo, was marked by profound personal struggles, including secret affairs and a significant decline in mental health. These challenges were deeply intertwined with her complex relationship with Emperor Puyi and the oppressive political environment imposed by Japanese influence. The deterioration of Wanrong and Puyi's relationship was evident in their daily interactions. Puyi's neglect was palpable. He would occasionally sit in Wanrong's bedroom before retiring for the night but would leave by midnight, often without her company. This pattern left Wanrong feeling isolated and frustrated, sometimes leading her to express her anger by throwing objects in her room. Seeking solace from her emotional turmoil and pervasive loneliness, Wanrong began using opium. What started as occasional use to alleviate stress evolved into a severe addiction. Between July 10, 1938, and July 10, 1939, she reportedly purchased over 740 ounces of opium, averaging about 2 ounces daily. Her expenditures on opium and related items, such as fashion and movie magazines, doubled during this period. This addiction further strained her relationship with Puyi, who was already distant and preoccupied with his own affairs. In his absence, Wanrong's isolation deepened, leading her to engage in secret relationships with two of Puyi's aides, Li Tiu and Qi Jizhong. These affairs resulted in a pregnancy in 1940. Wanrong pleaded with Puyi to accept the child, but he refused, and the baby was tragically killed shortly after birth. The loss of her child and the continuation of her opium addiction led to a noticeable decline in Wanrong's mental and physical health. She became increasingly unpredictable, neglecting personal hygiene and grooming. Her toenails grew untrimmed, curling into the flesh of her feet, and her teeth became discolored due to chronic opium use. Physically, she became extremely thin, and her hair was cut short, leading to a disheveled appearance. Mentally, her condition deteriorated further. She exhibited erratic behaviors, such as refusing to bathe or dress appropriately, and at times, would run around the palace in her pajamas. Her emotional state was fragile, with frequent mood swings and bouts of depression. These behaviors were often attributed to her opium addiction and the profound isolation she experienced within the palace walls. Despite her suffering, Wanrong's plight remained largely unaddressed. Puyi's attention was consumed by his own concerns, and the Japanese authorities showed little interest in her well-being beyond her symbolic role. This neglect contributed to her sense of entrapment and despair. Reinforcing her reliance on opium as a coping mechanism, Empress Wanrong's later years were characterized by secret affairs and a significant decline in mental health, exacerbated by opium addiction and emotional neglect. Her tragic story highlights the profound personal toll exacted by political machinations and the complexities of royal life under foreign influence. Empress Wanrong's final years were marked by profound suffering and isolation, culminating in her tragic death in 1946. Following the end of World War II and the collapse of Manchukuo, she was captured by Chinese Communist forces and endured a harrowing imprisonment that severely affected her physical and mental health. In August 1945, as Soviet forces advanced into Manchuria, Puyi, accompanied by his court, attempted to flee to Japan. Wanrong, along with Lady Saga and Li Yuqin, was left behind due to logistical constraints. They were soon captured by Chinese Communist guerrillas and transported to various locations before being confined in a prison camp in Yanji, Jilin province. During this period, Wanrong's health deteriorated rapidly. She suffered from severe opium withdrawal, malnutrition, and the psychological toll of captivity. Her physical condition declined to the point where she was found deceased in her cell in June 1946, at the age of 39. The exact circumstances of her death remain uncertain, but reports suggest it was due to the combined effects of malnutrition and opium withdrawal. Wanrong's remains were never recovered, and Puyi was not informed of her death until 3 years later. Upon learning of her passing, he reportedly showed no emotional reaction. In 2006, her younger brother, Runki, conducted a ritual burial for her in the Western Qing tombs, providing a semblance of closure to her tragic story. Empress Wanrong's life and untimely death serve as poignant reminders of the personal tragedies that unfolded amid China's turbulent transition from imperial rule to the establishment of the People's Republic.